Okay guys, so what I'm doing, I'm working on the galley hatch. I was gonna weld up the whole thing, but we got a new welder coming in on Tuesday and I'd like to give it a try. So I'm gonna hold off on the welding. One of the billion jobs I have left to do is work on the galley hatch, and I can do parts of it with it not welded up. One of the things I can do is I need to make the side rails that are curved like the outside pipe here for the hatch. So it has the same radius. So the way it works is the skin sits on top of this, obviously, and then there's the way the seals work. The door skin sits on top of this. So what you need to do, and with a seal under it, mine will have a seal, 2 seals, doesn't matter. Anyways, the seal setup takes about 1/4 inch. So basically you have to take this radius and make it 1/4 inch bigger, or it'll want to lay funny. It won't want to close, it'll be too tight because it's not actually, it's compressing too fast because it's the same size as this and it needs to be bigger because it's on top of it. So I'm adding 1/4 inch to it, these bars, so it's a different radius than the outside, so, you know, slightly, but. So what I'm doing, I just took a piece of wood here, clamped it to the frame, then I'm gonna take a piece of 1/4 inch flat bar and run it down on top of here, scribing it as I go, and that will give me my my outside dimension of where my pipe needs to be, and then I'll go from there. But that's basically what I'm doing so far, just taking a piece of angle here, or flat bar, and I'm basically just gonna go like this, across there, and just walk it down. Funny little area here. There we go. Easier to do with a smaller piece, but this will work just fine because the radius is small enough that it really doesn't matter. A little wonkiness here. It's okay. Okay, I'll connect that after. So basically that's what I need to do. So I need to have my outside of the pipe where that line is. If you can see it, right there, you see how it's 1/4 inch larger? So once I get that sorted, so I'll pull that off. Then what I like to do is I'll cut along, or I'll see what happens on the table, but I'm gonna have to cut that, Jesus. I'm gonna have to cut that down 1 inch because you can lay it in. I need to fit it to it. So like I did the top curve pieces for the fan, I need to do with this. So I would like to actually have the bottom, but I can't add 1/4 to the bottom because it's clipped to it, so you can't get up 1/4 inch into it. So I could either go one way, I could either take this off and go up, or I can do this, what I'm doing, and then go down. One way or the other, you can't access the actual measurement properly that I want. Because what I'd like to do is have this, so this is basically just a buck. So I will put a piece of wood on the bottom, cut it down 1 inch, and then when I'm bending it, I'll fit it to it, and it'll sit on top of it. You can have it, like I say, cut where it's going into it. You know, like if I cut it this way and use this side, it would fit the other way. I like it better on top, just preference, but we'll see how it goes when I take it out of here. But that's what I'm doing. You'll kind of see as I go, but it's very much the same thing I did on the fan bars, except these are just bigger. So hopefully it all works out. So onto the pull it off, cut it, and see how we go. First one done. Not too bad overall for using the press to do it. Hey guys, a little tip. When you're doing any kind of bending, always give yourself extra on the end. If your distance across here is say 52 inches, don't cut your aluminum or whatever metal 52 inches. For one, no matter if you're in a roller or a bender, without having enough to bridge the gap of either the rollers, the press, you're not going to be able to bend the ends to get the radius you want. So always give yourself some room. I don't know. It depends on what you're doing, but you know, whatever 6 inches aside, say. But don't cut it the same distance as what you're trying to bend. It won't work for you. And also sometimes arcs are, you know, the distance if you went across, say, versus on the curve is obviously different. So your distances always change when you're curving something. Your outside points, your inside gets smaller, your outside gets longer, whatever. So it's just a tip that when you're doing any kind of bending, always give yourself room on each side. Don't cheap out and say, oh, it's 52 inches, I'll just cut the pipe to 52 inches and then wonder why you can't bend your ends. Well, there's not enough there. How do you put a radius in something when you can't grab the other side of it to give it resistance? So just a little tidbit. I'm no pro bender by any stretch, hence why I'm doing it in a press and not with rollers. I don't have one. So anyway, yeah, just give yourself some room. Take it slow, because you can overbend really easily. If you push, just walk it really gradually, and you'll be all right. You can see what I'm saying here. If I was to push down on this piston, it would just go like this. It wouldn't actually bend anything. And if you clamp that to the other side, that's all fine and dandy, but your point of bend is actually not at the end. It's going to be whatever it hits. That's going to be your new point of bending. So you always need something to bridge that gap. See, as soon as I go over here, sorry, that's a little, so you can see as soon as I go over and here, now if I push down on this piston, it's going to push here and here, and this is now my bend point. So it's just something to think about. Like I say, give yourself extra. I give myself enough room that when I start bending, if this end's no good, then it doesn't matter. I'm just going to cut it off. And it also, by going longer, what you also get is you can move these, like on this. Let's show you. Grab my pipe. So as you can see, it doesn't fit here, but it fits here. But when you start bending it, unless you're a pro at it, you can kind of start, you can move it around a little bit when it's longer to find a point like, okay, it's fitting here, it's not there, this, that, and the other. When you are exactly the right shape and there's no movement back and forth, it's a little harder to dial it in. So when you give yourself some room on the ends, you don't necessarily need that much, but you get the idea, is that you get some play and you can do all sorts of things. And if you need to miter your edges or whatever your deal is on the end, you have room. So just something to keep in mind. Make sure you give yourself room to make it work in the end. See how I did that? It's a little bit back and forth. Find your highs and lows and work it out and see where the tipping point for that to push that down is, back and forth, but it works. Got 2 pieces, 1/4 inch bigger than the body for the hatch. So I'm actually pretty happy because I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to take this and go take it and to get it bent for me, because I don't really have the tooling for it. But it seems like as long as you put in the wood in between the metal and the piston, it cushions it enough that it doesn't look too bad. I mean, you get a slight bit of wobble, but this has got a skin on it, this got a skin on it. The side's perfect. The top is flawless, basically. It's just you get the slight little bit in there that you wouldn't have if you had it rolled. But you will never see that. So I'm pleased. It's one less thing I have to pay for to go get done. It's nice to do it myself when I can. So yeah, stoked. We're good. So something you can do at home with a cheap press. I do have a hydraulic press, but I find with that I can kind of feel the pressure more. So for me, as much as it's a super hard on your arm back and forth, I find it works good for this. It's a little bit more control versus just looking at a pressure gauge. So anyway, it worked for me anyway. There's a billion other ways to do it. Like I say, a roller is the best way to do it, but I'm not going to go buy a roller for something. Who knows? Maybe I'll never meld another trailer. I have no idea. So, but this works good, and this is something most people could rig up at home if they really had to. But the trick to getting it to look good was actually putting the wood in between it, so you can see it destroys the wood. Everything gets just mangled and smashed. But by doing that, it takes the cushion, so you don't get that hard edge. It diffuses it, and it makes the wood look like crap, which is totally disposable, versus the aluminum, making it look like a big wrinkled piece of crap. So anyways, something you could try at home for whatever project it is, but this way you could see that's it. That's the piece. Cut it. But you saw how I moved it back and forth. I knew there was no straight part on it. So what I did is I put a slight bend in the whole thing, and I knew there was one more a little bit at the beginning. So I bent it a little bit more there, but I kept doing a radius the whole thing without checking, and then I put it on here. Then I kind of fine-tuned where does this fit the best right now, and then I build off of that. That's why I say make it longer. It gives you that option when you don't have the tooling to do this beautiful rolled. And this is even tough for people with a roller, because this isn't it's not like a 90-degree bend or an arc that is a constant. It's not I have a 3-degree radius and that's what it is. This radius changes all the way through. So using a roller, even unless you really know what you're doing, even when I got the trailer body done, it's all done by hand. They don't have, I mean, sure they possibly do, but it's hard to get them to do a radius like that. They're not going to CNC bend it on unless you're doing some massive, crazy production kind of thing. But so all that was all done by hand. They do their marks, and it's basically the same thing I'm doing except for a roller, and they're a whole lot better at it because that's what they do. But anyways, the long and the short of it is you can do it at home by the look of it. It's okay. I do the whole outside frame? I don't know, that's pretty big. It would be very difficult, and I wouldn't bother myself. It's not worth it. I'd rather pay for it or go buy the proper tool. But to do that in a press, oh my God, it would take forever and your arm would want to fall off. So certain things there's the right tooling for, but certain things you can make do. So I'm pleased that I was able to do this. I wasn't sure how it was going to work. I did the roof ones, but they're only this big. So when you're doing a big one, it's a little bit more challenging, but I got it. So that's it. All right, so I cut the hinge down because it has a 1/4 inch offset. So one side of the hinge is longer than the other side because of the step in the roof or the skin height for the galley, because it sits on top of the body versus flush with it. So it sits up higher, so I have to offset it. So I drilled a bunch of pilot holes, just figuring it out. It's kind of boring and tedious, but this is kind of the whole door literally hinges off of it. So I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but this is how I'm doing it. I'm basically going to build the hinge with the bar, the upper bar on it, and get the hinge mounted to the body and the hinge mounted to the bar, removable at this point. And then I'm going to build the door in place. But since this is kind of the entire mechanism that it relies on, this needs to be basically perfect before I can move forward. So that's basically what I'm doing. Goofing around with this hinge, which is more trouble than I thought it would be. But it's coming along. It's a stainless hinge that I'm using, so it's super hard to cut. It's a pain in the butt. It would have been nice to use aluminum. I could run it through the table saw. But anyways, it's all right. But because I had to cut it with a grinder, it's not flawless. So getting the measurements to get the perfect offset. At the end of the day, it has to be a 1/4 inch difference, the two bars. So I just gotta make sure I get that right across the whole hinge, but piano hinges are a little funny to measure off. So that's what I'm doing. That's the project for today. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so we're finally working on the galley hatch. This is how I've decided to do it. I started this side. It's a lot of figuring and stuff like that, so I didn't video it because I'm just super tired from working all the time trying to get it done. So anyway, I'll have to play with that. What I'm trying to do is get this to be a 1/4 inch proud. I went with that style hinge, a piano hinge, because the hurricane hinges never shut in the same place twice because they're sliding, and your hinge has to overlap your body to not get water in it. I don't like the look of it, and I'm doing a bit different. So this style is what I choose to do. I'm going to do that piano hinge, and that's going to have a cover that goes over the piano hinge. It's not my favorite look, but I still like it looking better than something sticking out of the side. And this will be much better for water. So this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a piano hinge style. So I got this one side started. I got the top hinge already mounted. Because there's a 1/4 inch offset, I figured it would be easier to actually mount the two bars on, or mount the bar on it, get it on there, get that all figured out. Because trying to do it with a full door later is going to be very difficult to maneuver to try and screw into place. So this way I've only put a couple small screws in it just as a lineup, and then later on I'll probably rivet it on. So that top bar is actually mounted right now. Actually I can show you. If I take this bar off, it might be locked in here. Yeah, maybe not. No, I'll have to take this apart, so I'll play with that in a minute. Anyways, so this top bar is actually already screwed on and everything else, and it fully hinges up and down. So basically what I'm doing the same thing I did on this side, transferring the line over to my curved pipes. So what I'm going to do is put my curved pipe, like this one that I did for the other side, put on the outside of the other side, and then transfer this line across it, cut my 45s in it, and then put it on. This sits, like I say, a 1/4 inch proud. That is because there is the skin will overlap like this, and there'll be a seal here. So it needs to be proud because it's on top. So there's a 1/4 inch to allow for the seal and everything else. And then once this is all done, I'll get to the gutter part, and there'll be, where there's a 1/4 inch raise, there'll be a plate that comes out with a return on it, and there'll be a seal there. So there'll be a double seal. If I really wanted to, I could put a corner seal in, but I think that's probably overkill. And then it'll have a drain system at the bottom. So this is a little bit different down here. So I'm allowing for that extra thickness of material here. But this is basically what I'm up to. I'll show you the other side, how I built it, and we'll go from there. So this is this morning's project, hoping I can make this actually kind of be a hatch. So see how it goes. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a couple pieces of metal and little quarter-inch blocks, and I'm gonna put them one here, one here, and one here, and I'm gonna just clip them or clamp them down like this, and that'll allow, when I put my side piece on, to come up to this height underneath, which will be a quarter-inch taller, which is what I need for the door. It needs to be a quarter-inch proud. So I'll put one there, and one there, and that's how I'll start. And then I'll put up my bar, clamp my bar, get it lined up to where the curve matches well, clamp my bar on, and then I can transfer the heights of these over to that bar, mark out my angles for my 45s, and then I can cut it and then fit it. So this is what I'm doing for this part. So now what I'll need to do is take these off and move them around to the other side, to the actual hatch side, so I can use that to get my guide for my height. Come on. Sometimes these clamps are such a pain. It's hard to use sometimes when you only have one set of hands. I'm gonna have to cut myself some more quarter-inch blocks, I think. I need to have a couple in here, at least a couple there. Okay. You'll notice, I don't know if you could see it, but that I put a mark where I did my line across. If you can see it there. I drew the 45 angle on it because when you're doing stuff like this, it's very easy to cut it the wrong way. So if you give yourself a rough line, like I know not to cut it on that, but I know that's where my 45 will be. And it's going in that direction. Because if you flip it accidentally and you put the 45 angle going the wrong way, you're gonna be pretty upset because you gotta bend a whole new bar. So it's good practice to just give a rough angle line of, oh yeah, okay, this is getting cut off here in this direction, because you can bugger that up really quick. So something I do, and you don't have to, but you'd be really pissed off of yourself if you ended up cutting it with the direction going the other way and it's useless. This isn't a curve that I can switch to the other side or something like that. These are both, it's radius changes, so it is what it is, and if it's too short or it's cut a gouge out, you either got to Frankenstein it or you got to make a new one. So that's just something I do. So basically I have to take this line and transfer it because I can't put it in the saw this way because there's a radius here. I'd rather put it in the saw like this with the curve going up, especially on this side because the radius is bigger. So I transfer it around and very carefully make sure that that angle is still going in the same direction, double check it, triple check it, and yeah, put it in the bandsaw and cut it. You can cut it by hand, but it's nice to have a nice clean cut if you can do it. So I have one, and it's a little tricky to get set up because it curves up in the air and it's a little weird. But you know, usually you can get pretty close with your eye if you're careful. So that one worked out pretty good. I had to take a little bit off, but not much. So it was pretty darn close. And because I'm doing it in place, I have a little more variance than if I had to put this thing on the table and try and float it in the air with this big curve and try and square everything. It'd be really difficult. So anyways, yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to transfer this around, and then I'm going to go put it in the miter saw, cut it off, and see how she fits. So I had to pull these out of the way because I couldn't get it in. It was too difficult to maneuver, but it seems to be okay. So now I can flip these back. And that one fell on the floor. That one's still up there. I need it. Okay, so this here-ish. It's looking good. The fun part of this is getting all these little things to hold together. Okay, those are all lined up, so we know that this is a 1/4 inch up. Face is right there. And this is looking good up here. Let's see where it's another. Take my little 1/4 inch piece, wrap, just check it everywhere, put that on the face and see how it looks. Pretty close. Ease up a little bit. This is forced in a little bit. I might take a little bit off of it. I think that might be pushing this up. It's hard to say. That's fitting, that's fitting. Actually, it's good. It's good. We're good. I didn't see there was a gap here. Should be clamping that. I think it will clean it up just a little bit and shorten take like a 1/16 off of it, and I think we're good. Thanks. Good. All right, we're gold. I'm gonna take it out, take a tiny bit off, bevel the edges, because on something like this, I'm gonna have to get the edges. Well, I'm gonna have to grind it smooth because there's faces on all sides. Well, on most of the sides. So I'll bevel the edges so when I grind it, I'm not taking all the weld off. This will probably get a flat plate somewhere here, and possibly on the top too. And I have hinges or my latches that'll go on here. So they're gonna need to go through something solid. So I'll probably end up putting a piece of 1/4 or gusseted or something, we'll see. And that'll also make these corners really strong. But I have to do that top, and the reason for the top one, strength is good, but also for the rubber piece that I'm gonna cover the hinge over, it needs to be farther away than just the other side of the hinge. I want it farther away. So up there, I'll probably add one too. And then I'll probably put in a bar here and a bar there across. And then go from there, see how it looks. So we'll see. I can pull this out, get it ready, and give her a try. Another little trick that I do, squares on round things don't work that well. They work fine for on the flat edge, but this way, with the going, if you want to square something along the curve, they rock. So even well, this isn't a great example down there, but like if I put this here, that's not square to the pipe. It's actually crooked. It's cut this way. So all I do for that, I don't know, I'm sure the pros have some certain way, but if you take a scrap piece of pipe and then you fit it along the top and the bottom, then that radius is square at that point. So that's what I do. Yeah, just take it like this, wherever your line is, and you put your finger like that, and as long as it's flat on the top and bottom, you know this edge is square to wherever that pipe is at the time, where a square won't do that because it's longer. The longer something is, and you're going off the top, not the side. This is going off the side. So that's what I do, and it seems to work for me. So just something you can do. That was my original line there, but it's on the bottom side, or the top side, sorry, but I need to flip it over. So I put the 45 on there because this side is square. Put the 45 on here, like that. That'll give me this point. Mark that. I can come around. Anyway, I can chase it around to here, and then looking at both sides, double check that my point is at the same point, so I know that I'm cutting off the right side. And now I can cut that off in the saw. When you're putting it in the saw, you really want to just put all your pressure on where the actual cut is happening. If you're a little short, that's not a big deal. As far as like a 16th or something like that, your odds are you're going to have to adjust it slightly. But get it as close as you can to that line-up mark. It looks pretty good. See how it dropped a little bit. That's because it is curved, so the one side was up. That's why you gotta kind of make sure you put it in the saw properly to try and get your curve so it's actually flat. It's not a science, this thing, or anything, like as far as getting it perfect. It is, you're only gonna get it so flawless, but most of the time you can get it pretty good. This is the wrong direction. I just want to hold it. So you will notice that I'm not really squaring this, and the reason being is the bars are already square, and At this point, square is irrelevant. It has to be the same all the way around, whatever it is. So there's no real point. The biggest thing I need to worry about is that I have the same distance all the way around, and I have the same distance up. And it fits the hole, so then it is what it is. If I square it and this is out slightly, then they won't fit properly. So at this point, when it's all done, you go off what this is, and with 1/4 inch spacers all the way around, I know it's true to what this is. So that's all that matters, and I have lots of forgiveness too. I 1/4 inch is more than enough. I will lose some with the overlapping trim with seal, but not bad. But that's why you probably won't see me square it, because there's not much point at this point. It's a little tricky to get these guys in. Okay. I'm just putting all these back up. What I think I'll probably do is I'll probably tack these in place, and then I'll get my my cross braces in, and go from there. So I'm gonna tack this guy up. I'm digging the new welder. It's really cool. Got a couple little quirks that I'm not used to. It's got on the bottom of the gun, you can adjust your wire speed from the gun instead of the machine, which is really cool. But it's super sensitive, and every once in a while, you know, if you're positioning yourself or something, you put your pinky down there or something like that. I learned the hard way yesterday. And when I was doing, of course, the ones that are upside down, all of a sudden, I'm like, why isn't it welding right? All of a sudden, it was just a problem. Anyway, I had hit the switch, and it had gone up to like 700 something versus 4 something. So I'm like, oh, well, that explained it, but I kind of wished I had a little cover over it or something like that, so it wasn't so easy to knock off. And it's super sensitive. Like, you just touch it, and it'll change. But that being said, the machine is 150% better than the welder I was using. You get what you pay for. well, the whole machine is brand new and it's way more powerful, everything else, but the gun itself, I mean, this is a, I don't know, $1,500 gun or $2,000 gun, whatever it is, versus the other one was like $300. Well, this thing runs, performs, welds night and day. I wish I had it earlier. My welds would probably look a lot better, but it is what it is. It's more than strong enough. I got so many welds on here. This is 10 times, I'm sure, what a lot of people would do. Anyways, so yeah, digging the new gun. It works freaking great. Yeah, so I guess it's time to weld this up. So here's the galley door. It opens and closes. I didn't show it. I just pulled it off because I couldn't weld the corners up by the hinges, and not all of it while it was clamped in place. There's a couple little things. When I bring it out, make sure those corners are nice and sharp and look good, and yeah. So I just pulled it off. I'm gonna clean it up, weld up what I couldn't get, and then put it back in place, and then you'll see it. But it works, so that's good. All right, pretty stoked. The door.